Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take complex information, pull out the essential insights, the really surprising stuff, and basically give you a shortcut to understanding it all. Today, we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really vital American institution, the U.S. Forest Service. Our source material includes excerpts from a document titled U.S. Forest Service, Union Representation, Common Injuries, and Injury Filing Process. So our mission today isn't just about what the USFS does overall. We want to unpack what it's really like to work there, especially for, say, a wildland firefighter facing, huge risks. And how do those support systems, things like unions and injury claims, actually function?
Exactly. And that's, I think, why this is so important for you, the listener. Understanding the sheer dedication, the challenges these folks face protecting our national lands. Plus, getting a handle on the systems meant to back them up when things go wrong. Gives you a whole new perspective.
Well, okay, let's get into it. We hear about the Forest Service, yeah, usually with wildfires in the headlines. But what is the USFS really at its core?
Well, its roots go back to 1905. President Theodore Roosevelt established it with Gifford Pinchot as the first chief. What's interesting is how it was formed.
How so?
It involved transferring federal forest reserves from the Department of the Interior over to the Department of Agriculture. And that move really set its core mission, caring for the land and serving people through sustainable management.
Okay, and the scale we're talking about.
Oh, it's vast, immense. The USFS manages the National Forest System. That's 154 national forests, 20 national grasslands. We're talking roughly 193 million acres.
Wow.
Yeah, spread across 43 states, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. It's a massive responsibility.
So here's where it gets really interesting. For me, it's not just trees then. It's much bigger than timber.
Oh, far bigger. Think forests, mountains, rangelands, critical watersheds, wildlife habitats. And managing all that for, well, multiple uses.
Like what kind of uses?
Conservation, obviously, but also recreation, timber harvesting, yes, but also watershed protection, grazing for livestock. And critically, their expertise in wildland fire management is pretty much unparalleled.
Okay, so with this incredibly broad mission, managing these huge wild areas, these jobs must come with some serious challenges. What kind of support do USFS employees actually have? Especially given how hazardous the work can be.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. And that's where federal employee labor unions really come into play. Their role is advocating for working conditions, pay, and, very importantly, safety.
Is there one main union, or?
The main player is the National Federation of Federal Employees Forest Service Council. You'll hear it called NFFE FSC.
Okay.
And it's significant. It's the largest union representing USFS workers, over 20,000 of them across more than 130 units. It's also affiliated with the IAM and the AFL-CIO.
What I find fascinating here is that the source mentions NFFE specifically advocating for wildland firefighters. What kind of things are they pushing for?
Right. That's a big focus. They've been heavily involved in pushing for legislation to deal with these so-called pay cliffs.
Pay cliffs, what's that?
It's basically when temporary funding or special pay rates for firefighters run out, leading to this sudden drastic drop in their income.
Huge.
Yeah. So NFE's been fighting that, pushing for a whole new permanent wildland firefighter job series with better pay and benefits. They also advocate for things like mental health support and even housing, which are huge issues given the stressful, often nomadic nature of the job.
Are there other unions involved at all?
There is another one, the American Federation of Government Employees, or AFGE. But while NFFE FSC is the exclusive rep for most USFS folks, AFGE's presence is more limited. They represent some specific units like the Box Elder Job Corps Center, but generally, NFFE FSC is the main union voice.
So bottom line, these unions are focused on?
Protecting rights, negotiating contracts, those collective bargaining agreements, pushing for better workplace safety, and helping employees navigate tricky issues like work hours, hazard pay, overtime, and, importantly, those workers' comp policies.
That brings us right to a crucial point. The hazards. We all know wildland firefighting is dangerous, but what are the most common injuries and health risks these employees are actually facing day to day? This really makes you think about the hidden costs, right?
Absolutely. I mean, USFS field employees, especially wildland firefighters, are doing incredibly physically demanding work. Often in extreme conditions, think rough terrain, heavy tools, crazy weather shifts, thick smoke, incredibly long shifts.
Yeah.
It just leads to a high rate of injuries and illnesses.
Okay, let's break down the most common ones you see.
Well, top of the list, based on the source, are sprains, strains, and muscular injuries. Just the most prevalent.
Like twisting an ankle.
Exactly. Sprained ankles, knee injuries, muscle strains from hiking that uneven ground,
Yeah.
carrying maybe 50 pounds of gear, chopping, digging for hours on end. It's often tied to overexertion and just plain fatigue.
Makes sense. What else?
Slips, trips, and falls. Pretty self-explanatory given the rugged environments, steep slopes, downed logs, loose rocks everywhere. And again, fatigue really increases that risk.
Right.
Then you've got tool and equipment injuries, cuts, lacerations, puncture wounds, chainsaws, Pulaskis. Those are sharp digging tool shovels, eye injuries from flying debris. It really highlights how crucial training and just constant attentiveness are, especially when you're tired.
I imagine vehicles are a risk, too, getting to these remote places.
Definitely. Vehicle and aircraft accidents are actually a significant cause of serious injuries and, sadly, fatalities. You're often traveling on these winding, unimproved roads, sometimes in heavy vehicles, maybe with low visibility from smoke. And then there's the aircraft, helicopters, air tankers. Accidents happen there, too.
What about the environmental factors? The heat, the smoke?
Huge factors. Heat-related illnesses are a major concern. Heat stress is common, working near flames, wearing heavy protective gear.
So like heat exhaustion.
Yeah, dehydration, heat exhaustion, even heat stroke. And there's something called rhabdomyolysis. It's a dangerous breakdown of muscle tissue. Prevention is key. Constant hydration, like maybe up to a liter an hour, and mandatory rest breaks.
And the smoke. We always see pictures of firefighters surrounded by it.
Smoke inhalation and respiratory issues are a big one. Breathing in all that wildfire smoke, dust, particulates, chemicals, it causes irritation, coughing, bronchitis, acute injuries. And there are ongoing studies looking into the long-term effects on lung function from repeated exposure over years.
What about burns? Are they common?
Direct burn injuries are actually less frequent than you might think, but obviously incredibly serious when they happen, especially in entrapment situations. Firefighters carry personal fire shelters for emergencies. But another hazard related to fire is falling debris, like trees or big branches, they call them snags, weakened by the fire. They can come down without warning.
How do they manage that risk?
There are key protocols, like LCES, lookouts, communications, escape routes, and safety zones. Constant vigilance.
You mentioned something else related to exertion.
Yes, and this one is critical and often overlooked. Cardiac events and other exertion-related conditions. Heart attacks are actually a leading cause of on-duty deaths among wildland fire personnel.
Really? More than burns or accidents?
Yes. The sheer physical strain combined with the heat, the altitude, the smoke, it puts immense stress on the cardiovascular system. It can exacerbate underlying conditions people might not even know they have. Fitness, medical screening, and those rehab breaks are absolutely vital.
Wow. So it's this intense mix of like traumatic injury risks from falls and tools, but also these serious job-related illnesses from heat, smoke, and just sheer exertion.
Exactly. It underscores the need for continuous training, the right protective gear, and really strict adherence to safety protocols. It's a constant battle against fatigue and cumulative risk.
Okay, so given all these significant risks, it's absolutely critical that employees know how to get help if they do get injured. How does that federal workplace injury claim process actually work for someone in the Forest Service? This seems like where the system's details really matter.
Right. It's all governed by something called the Federal Employees Compensation Act, or FECA, and it's administered by the Department of Labor's Office of Workers' Compensation Programs, OWCP. That's the agency that handles claims for work-related injuries or occupational diseases for federal employees.
Let's walk through the key steps for you, the listener. What's the absolute first thing someone needs to do if they get hurt on the job?
Report it immediately and get medical care if needed. That sounds basic, but it's the foundation. Tell your supervisor right away.
Even for something minor?
Yes, even if you don't think you'll lose work time. Document everything. For serious injuries, obviously, seek medical help immediately. Supervisors can authorize emergency treatment with a specific form, a CA-16, for traumatic injuries, but the key is reporting everything promptly.
Okay, reported. Then what? Is it paper forms or?
It's mostly electronic now. You need to register and file through the Department of Labor's eComp portal. That's ecomp.dialgol.gov.
Ecom.
Yep, stands for Employees Compensation Operations and Management Portal. A key tip from the source is to create your account using a personal email address, not your work one.
Why is that?
So you can still access your claim information even if you leave the Forest Service later on. It keeps the access tied to you personally.
Smart. Okay, so you're in Ecomp. What's next?
You'll fill out the OSHA 301 incident report. This is the basic report for record keeping. You generally need to do this within a few days, like 4 calendar days. It gets routed to your supervisor, the agency safety office, and OSHA.
And then you file the actual claim form. I understand there are different ones.
Yes, and this is a really critical distinction. You need to pick the right form, CA1 or CA2.
Okay, what's the difference?
Form CA1 is for a traumatic injury.
Yeah.
That means something caused by a specific event or incident that happened during one single work shift. Think a fall, getting cut by a tool, a vehicle accident. A key thing about the CA1 is that it makes you potentially eligible for continuation of pay, or COP.
Continuation of pay, like getting your regular salary.
Pretty much, yeah, for up to 45 calendar days while your claim is processed. But then there's Form CA2, that's for an occupational disease.
And that covers
Conditions that developed over time or from repetitive exposures across multiple work days. So think repetitive stress injuries like carpal tunnel maybe, or those long-term effects from smoke inhalation we talked about. The big difference, no COP eligibility with a CA2.
So getting it right is crucial for pay continuation.
Absolutely. The source gives a simple rule: 1 day, 1 incident equals CA1, cumulative condition equals CA2. Getting that right up front saves a lot of hassle.
Okay, so you've chosen the right form, CA1 or CA2. What's important when filling it out in eComp?
Be thorough and accurate. And here's a practical tip. If a field doesn't apply, don't leave it blank. Put NA. Apparently, blank fields can cause the form to be flagged and sent back, delaying everything.
Good to know. Where does it go after you submit it?
It routes electronically. First to your supervisor for review, then usually to the USFS Workers' Comp Specialist or office, and finally it lands with OWCP, the Department of Labor agency that makes the decision.
You mentioned deadlines and that continuation of pay. How strict are those timelines?
Very strict, especially for COP. For a CA1 traumatic injury claim, you must file it within 30 days of the injury to keep your eligibility for those 45 days of continuation of pay.
What if you miss the 30 days?
You can still file the claim itself for up to 3 years after the injury occurred. But crucially, you lose the right to COP if you file that CA1 after the 30-day mark. And remember, COP never applies to CA2 occupational disease claims anyway.
Okay, form submitted on time. What else does OWCP need? Just the form.
No, definitely not. You absolutely need supporting medical documentation. You have to provide evidence from a licensed physician that clearly links your diagnosis to the specific work incident or your work duties and exposures.
Are there specific medical forms, too?
Yes. Your supervisor might issue that Form CA16 we mentioned earlier, which authorizes initial treatment and guarantees payment for the first 60 days for traumatic injuries. Then your doctor will likely need to fill out a Form CA17, that's the duty status report, outlining any work restrictions. And for occupational diseases, or maybe older injuries, there's a Form CA20, the attending physician's report.
How do you get those to OWCP?
You should upload them directly through the Econ portal if possible, or you can work with your agency's workers' comp specialist to make sure they get submitted correctly.
Sounds like you need to stay on top of it.
Absolutely. The final step is really follow through and communication. Keep checking your claim status in eComp. Respond promptly if OWCP asks for more information. And don't hesitate to reach out to your USFS workers' comp specialist or your union rep if you have questions or run into problems. If your claim is approved, OWCP pays the approved medical bills and any compensation owed.
So bringing this all together, what's the big picture, the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive for our listeners?
Well, I think we've seen the immense scope and vital role of the U.S. Forest Service, but also the very real, often hidden dangers faced by its employees, especially those on the front lines like wildland firefighters. And alongside that, this detailed, structured, though sometimes complex system designed to support them through unions and federal workers' comp when they get hurt.
Yeah, this deep dive really has shown us the layers, hasn't it? The dedication, the inherent risk, and then the structured support behind that mission of caring for the land and serving people. It's a fascinating look at that balance between, human effort and the sheer power of nature.
It really is. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When you consider the scale of the national forest system, 193 million acres, and the growing challenges we face, things like climate change intensifying wildfires, it raises a really important question for the future.
Which is?
How might the role of the Forest Service itself, and maybe more importantly, how these crucial support systems for its workforce, the unions, the compensation processes, the safety protocols, how might all of that need to evolve and adapt in the coming decades to meet those challenges?
That is a powerful thought to leave everyone with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope you've gained some valuable insights, maybe a few surprising facts along the way. Until next time, keep exploring.